Alright guys, I'm Drew Ross here with the Jackson Kayak Fishing Team. I want to talk to you a little bit about kayak fly fishing. A lot of the things I hear about people why they don't do it and some of the frustrations they have is really with snags and tangles. And they usually attribute that to the way the kayak is laid out. But I've been fishing out of the Jackson Kayak, Cuda 12, the Cuda HD, the Kraken, and I really found a way to do it is really with line management. You can eliminate a lot of those snags and those tangles if you just try to avoid having a lot of line on the deck. And what happens, like out here, especially with Southeast Louisiana when we're red fishing, most of our casts and presentations were less than 20 feet. It's, we were sight fishing, so we didn't really make a presentation until you saw a fish. So you really eliminate a lot of that, your tangles and stuff, is if you don't put a lot of line out on the deck. So whenever I get set up, I usually stand up, I go ahead and strip out however much line I need. Usually less than 20 feet. I don't want like 30 feet of line out, because then what happens is you have all that line on the deck, and that's what's going to tangle up and everything. So what you do is you try to eliminate some of that, and you can spin back onto your line, get your fly rod up, and then go ahead and pull up on your line to see how much, and clear the tangles. You can do all that in one motion, and that's all part of managing your line, as opposed to having it like wrapped around you behind you or hanging over the boat. What I'll do is I'll pick it up and I'll have it like this, and then I will wrap that back on the boat and just let it lay over the deck. And then as you're making a presentation, you're stripping line back in, and you're stripping and stripping and stripping. And when you're stripping line back in, I don't just throw it out, I keep it wrapped up in my hand. And then if he decides he doesn't want to eat that one, I get another chance at it, I'll do the same thing. I'll lay the line back down again. And what you're doing effectively is you're keeping that line inside the boat, and you're laying it down on the deck in a way that it comes back off the deck without spiraling or tangling up. If you just have a bunch of line in your hand and you're ready to make a cast, you just drop it, it just has a tendency to roll on the way down, and that makes it almost impossible to get a really good presentation, because what's going to happen is the line's going to ball up in a knot, it's going to tangle, and when you start shooting line out of the guides, it's going to hit the eyes, and you're going to have really bad presentation. Sometimes it'll shoot through, but it creates a lot of tension on the line. It's going to make your baits slap the water. And when you're in here and you're fishing for redfish and the fish are really spooky when they're in those ponds, it's a foot of water. Any little bit of impact with the water that you're not controlling really spooks the fish. The next thing that happens is when you get an eat. The best way to do that, I see a lot of guys trying to reel in all that slack line, and that just takes forever. The fastest way to do that is just to backspin all that line back on your reel. And then the fish pulls off, and then you can manage that. You can tighten your drag up if you need to, and you can correct with the paddle. And then when the fish you're ready to start messing with the fish again, he's already on the reel, and you can pull him in, which is really helpful out here, because all the ponds, the fish, they start running, and a lot of times they'll run behind you. So you're stripping line in, and then he runs behind you, and now you're trying to let line out, and that's when backspinning and getting all that line back on the reel is really helpful, because before you know it, the fish is going to be 20 feet behind you, and your boat's going the opposite direction. If you practice, managing your line, it's probably one of the most important things you can do when you're fly fishing, because it keeps a lot of the frustrations and losing fish because of a tangle or a snag. I think you'll find it a little more enjoyable if you practice managing your line when you're in a kayak. Thanks, guys.